If you've been thinking about getting a small beginner drone under 250 grams with 4K video and a 3-axis gimbal, a couple of the must-haves for a good quality drone, then you probably have come across the Potensic Atom as a newer release drone with a budget price that is getting a lot of attention lately. This is a great little drone for sure. You've probably also seen that DJI has the Mini 3 and Mini 4 models out, which are capable performers to be sure. But unfortunately, they're not as budget friendly as the Atom, and the Mini 2, which is more comparable in price and the functionality to the Atom, is no longer being manufactured or even offered by DJI. Or is it? There is a new company called Audiio, which is offering the Specta Mini, which appears to be the DJI Mini 2 reincarnated down to the smallest detail. So, something I want to mention to set the stage for this video is to keep in mind that the Specta Mini and the DJI Mini 2 and the DJI Mini 4K are all the same drone, probably made in the same factory by the same people. They are essentially the same product. Now, keep in mind throughout this video when we compare the Potensic Atom and the other model, you can substitute the DJI Mini 2, the DJI Mini 4K, or the Specta Mini as the second drone. Let's get back to the comparison video because they're all fantastic drones in their own right, and I'm interested to see what you think of the video comparisons. Thank you for your time. So throughout this video, I'm going to be playing video that was taken with both of these drones at different times, and I'm going to label them, but I'm not going to say which one was from which drone right away. So as the drone videos play throughout this video, keep track of which ones you think are from which drone. Let me know in the comments. I'm curious to know if you could really tell the difference between these two drones. Physically, the drone bodies come in under that magical 249 gram weight and both have quality fit and finish. They look very similar, and at a quick glance you would probably have a tough time even telling them apart. The remotes, on the other hand, are both charged via USB-C, have removable sticks and minimal buttons and lights that are laid out intuitively, but this is where the similarities end. The Specta Mini has a more traditional design, being a larger square shape and is much heavier, while the Atom remote is smaller and lighter, which becomes more important the longer you hold it, and the device holder is built into the center of the remote as it expands to accommodate the device, while the Specta has a traditional extending mount on the top of the remote, which does tend to make it a bit top-heavy in use, while the Atom layout keeps the weight more evenly distributed in your hands. Neither of the remotes can accommodate a tablet without purchasing an additional adapter and cable, but I found it more difficult to find an adapter that will fit tight on the Atom because of the limitations of that spring clamp type design. Continuing with the drone functionality itself, both have similar quick shots built in, including droney, rocket, circle, spiral, boomerang, but the Atom adds waypoints and visual follow to the lineup, where the Specta does not include these. They both do have auto return to home functionality, but the Specta has a limitation where it will not perform a return to home if the distance is within 20 meters of the launch point, which has caused me some frustration in the past. One other feature that the Specta has that the Atom does not is built-in geofencing. If you fly in areas that are not unsure is controlled or restricted airspace, and you rely on this to notify you, kind of keep you out of trouble, then this might be a deal breaker for you. Now personally, I approach airspace as my responsibility to know the limitations of where I'm flying, so for me it's not a problem, or even preferred not to have this feature. So it depends on your approach to this if it is a feature or a bug. Another important detail is the signal transmission range, and while the Atom has a 6 kilometer or 3.7 mile range, the Specta Mini has an impressive 10 kilometer or 6.2 mile spec. In the US, we have to remain within visual line of sight, and both of these perform flawlessly within the visual line of sight in my tests, but in the area where you might have more interference, for instance, it's always nice to have the strongest transmission signal possible anyway. Operationally, they are both very stable and hover in place well, though I'd have to give a slight edge to the Specta for hover position capability. They both fly well and are responsive, though when I was performing a series of movements, I did find it easier to make smooth movements with the Specta Mini. The default stick tuning makes small movements very precise, where the Atom does require more precision on the part of the pilot, though it is possible. The Specta also has some fine-tuning of the stick parameters available in the app to even further adjust this for the user. The Atom only has this adjustment on the gimbal control, and I did find that I missed that extra configurability on the stick profile. Of course, with a camera drone, one of the most important items is the camera quality, and they both have similar specs, both being 12 megapixel, but the Specta has a larger sensor being 1/2.3, where the Atom sensor is 1/3. But the Atom has a wider aperture at f2.2, where the Specta is 2.8. That being said, I find it's better to test the cameras rather than rely on the specifications, so I'm going to show a series of videos that I took using each one so you can see the detail for yourself. These were both recorded in auto camera mode, and something to note here is that they both do have manual exposure modes, including shutter speed, ISO, frame rates, white balance, and exposure compensation. One benefit of the Specta is because it is based on the DJI Mini 2, there are various accessories readily available, including neutral density filters or polarizers that will snap right on. The Atom does not only not have these filters available, the design of the camera gimbal is such that NDs cannot be attached to the lens as there's insufficient clearance. That would cause a gimbal initialization failure if they were attached. The bitrate is also quite different. The Atom comes in at 50 megabits per second, where the Specta doubles this at 100 megabits per second. Under normal conditions making cinematic movements, most users won't notice this difference, as the 50 megabits per second is acceptable for 4K 30, but if quicker moves are used when recording video, then some jitter could be apparent on the Atom, where the Specta is going to appear much smoother. I did do a test to see if there is a major difference in the sound of the propellers, and I'll put some of that video up here so you can hear the difference for yourself. Lastly, I'll put the pricing up here for similar packages. The Atom does have a Fly More package available as well, whereas at the time of this video, there's only one single battery package available for the Specta. I always recommend to get more than one battery at least, so the lack of a Fly More package is a bit of a negative for the way I fly, but additional batteries are supposed to be available for purchase directly from Specta in the near future, so this should help that out. You have to decide if the Specta adds functionality that you absolutely need, or if the Atom is a better value for you. Remember that I do have links in the description for the things that I talk about here. If you want to learn more about either of these two drones, click on these videos for more info, and I'll see you there.